Zenthara stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her four eyes tracing the empty black void that stretched across three spiral arms of the galaxy. In 300 years of mapping the most dangerous regions of known space, she had never seen anything like it. The gap in their charts was massive, containing hundreds of billions of stars, yet somehow remained completely unmapped. "This cannot be right," she muttered, her translator converting her native Vorthon clicks into galactic standard. She touched the display with one of her thin, jointed fingers. The empty region pulsed red, showing its boundaries. "How can we have no data on such a large area?" The door to her office slid open with a soft hiss. Director Calzon entered, his heavy footsteps echoing against the metal floor. The Kraxan was twice her size, with thick gray skin and small, nervous eyes. Today, those eyes looked especially worried. "Ah, Zenthara. Good. You received the assignment files." Calzon moved to stand beside her desk, careful not to look directly at the holographic display. "Director, I must ask about this region." Zenthara gestured at the void. "Our records show it contains thousands of inhabited systems. There are active trade routes. We even have diplomatic contacts with several species from this area. Yet we have no proper maps, no survey data. Nothing." Calzon shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "Yes, well, that is why the Council has finally approved a comprehensive mapping mission. You are our most experienced cartographer. If anyone can chart this region, it would be you. But why has it never been mapped before?" Zenthara pulled up historical records on her display. "I see attempts going back 2 centuries. All of them stopped suddenly. What happened to the previous survey teams?" The director's skin darkened, a sign of stress in his species. "They encountered difficulties, technical problems, equipment failures, the usual hazards of deep space exploration." Zenthara frowned. She had worked with Calzon for 50 years. She knew when he was being less than honest. "Director, with respect, I have surveyed black holes, neutron star clusters, and regions with active dark matter storms. What could be more dangerous than those?" "It is complicated," Calzon said. He moved to the window that looked out over Zephyria Prime's capital city. Below them, millions of beings from hundreds of species went about their daily lives. The region in question is unique. Unique how? The inhabitants are unusual. They call themselves humans. They come from a small system they name Sol. Yellow star, third planet, standard carbon-based life forms. On the surface, nothing special. But Zenthara waited, but the director seemed reluctant to continue. "But what?" "Every major spacefaring civilization has agreed to classify the region as unsurveyable. The Zephyrians, the Altarians, the Vegan Trade Federation, even the Andromedans. All of them refused to send mapping expeditions to human space. This was very strange. The species Calzon mentioned rarely agreed on anything. They had been at war with each other for thousands of years. Yet they all agreed that this one region should not be mapped." "What makes them so dangerous?" Zenthara asked. "Do they have powerful weapons? Advanced military technology?" "No, nothing like that. From what little we know, humans are actually quite peaceful. They trade with other species. They have diplomatic relations. They seem friendly enough." Calzon turned back to face her. "It is not what they do to us that concerns the Council. It is what they do to space itself." Zenthara felt a chill run through her body. "What do you mean?" "The few reports we have from the border regions describe irregularities, space-time distortions, gravitational anomalies, areas where standard physics does not seem to apply. Some survey teams reported that their instruments gave impossible readings when they approached human-controlled systems." She pulled up the mission files and began reading through them. Most were heavily redacted with large sections blacked out. But she could see enough to understand that something very unusual had happened to the previous survey expeditions. "Here," she said, pointing to one report. "Survey Team Delta 7. They entered the outer edge of the region and immediately lost contact with their base. When they were found 3 days later, their ship was intact, but the crew was changed. Changed how? The report says they suffered from acute spatial disorientation syndrome. They claimed they could see in more than 3 dimensions. They insisted that space had colors and sounds that normal beings could not perceive. The medical team concluded they had been exposed to some form of exotic radiation. Calzon nodded grimly. That was one of the milder incidents. Other teams reported that their navigation systems began showing impossible data. Stars that existed in multiple locations at once, planets that orbited nothing, space lanes that curved back on themselves. Zenthara scrolled through more reports. Each one described similar problems. Survey teams would enter the region and immediately begin experiencing technical difficulties. Their instruments would malfunction. Their maps would become useless. Some teams simply vanished entirely. Look at this one, she said, highlighting a particular file. Survey Team Gamma 12. They made it deeper into the region than most. Their last transmission was unusual. She activated the audio recording. A voice filled the room, speaking in heavily accented Galactic Standard. Base Control, this is Gamma 12. We have reached the system the locals call Wolf 359. I need to report something impossible. The star is not natural. Someone has built something around it. Not a Dyson sphere or ring structure. Something else. Something that exists in the space between dimensions. Our sensors show it is simultaneously there and not there. And it is. It is looking at us. I repeat, the structure around Wolf 359 is actively observing our ship. We are requesting immediate evacuation. Something is very wrong here. End transmission. The recording ended. Silence filled the room. What happened to them? Zenthara asked quietly. They were found 2 weeks later, drifting in empty space at the edge of the region. Their ship was undamaged. The crew was alive, but Calzon paused. They could no longer function in normal space-time. They had to be placed in special medical facilities where the local physics could be adjusted to match their altered perceptions. Zenthara closed the file and leaned back in her chair. And despite all of this, the Council wants me to map the region? The Council believes that with our most advanced equipment and your experience, we might finally succeed where others have failed. The galaxy needs this mapping project completed. There are too many blank spaces in our charts. It makes interstellar commerce difficult, navigation hazardous. She studied the empty region on her display again. It seemed to pulse with its own dark light, as if it were alive and watching her back. I will need the best ship available, the most advanced sensors, a crew of specialists from multiple species. Granted, whatever you require. And I want complete access to all previous survey reports. No redactions, no classified sections. If I am going to risk my life and the lives of my crew, I need to know exactly what we are facing. Calzon hesitated. Some of those reports are classified at the highest levels. The information they contain is considered dangerous. Director, you are asking me to map a region that has defeated every previous attempt. A region so dangerous that the entire galaxy has agreed to avoid it. I think I can handle reading some classified reports. After a long moment, Calzon nodded. Very well. I will arrange for you to have full access. But Zenthara, be careful. There are some things in those reports that will change how you see the universe. Once you read them, you cannot go back to not knowing. That evening, alone in her office, Zenthara began reading the classified files. What she found made her question everything she thought she knew about space, time, and the nature of reality itself. The final report, dated over 100 years ago, ended with a single line that made her blood run cold. Emergency Protocol Omega-7 activated. Survey operations in Sector 001A discontinued indefinitely. Reason: subjects achieved spatial awareness beyond acceptable parameters. Recommendation: classify entire region as cartographically impossible. Do not attempt further mapping under any circumstances. The report was signed by the entire Galactic Council. Every member species had agreed. Whatever lived in that empty space was too dangerous to map, too dangerous to understand, and too dangerous to contact. Yet tomorrow she would begin her journey into that darkness, armed with instruments and determination, hoping to succeed where centuries of expeditions had failed. She only hoped she would still be herself when she returned. The survey ship stellar cartographer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the forbidden region, with a sound like reality tearing. Xanthara felt her stomach lurch as the ship's artificial gravity system struggled to adjust to local space-time conditions. Even here, at the very border of the unmapped zone, something felt wrong. "All stations report," she ordered, her voice carrying across the bridge to her crew of 12 specialists. Each represented a different species, chosen for their expertise in dangerous mapping operations. "Navigation systems online," reported Lieutenant Zexhai, a crystalline being whose natural ability to process multidimensional data made her invaluable for complex stellar cartography. "But I am getting unusual readings. Space-time appears to be thicker than normal in this region." "Define thicker," Xanthara said, moving to stand behind the navigation station. "It is difficult to explain in standard terms. Imagine trying to move through water instead of air. The fundamental properties of space seem denser here. Our hyperspace engines required 17% more energy than normal to reach this position." Chief Science Officer Vroltak, a massive insectoid from the hive worlds, looked up from his instrument panel. "Confirming unusual readings across all sensors. Gravitational patterns do not match our stellar charts. I am detecting mass signatures that should not exist." "Show me," Xanthara ordered. The main display activated, showing their immediate surroundings. Instead of the empty space they expected, the screen revealed a complex network of gravitational anomalies stretching in all directions. Lines of force curved and twisted through space like invisible highways. "These patterns," Xanthara whispered, studying the display. "They are not natural." "No," agreed Vroltak. "They appear to be artificially created, but the engineering required would be beyond any known technology. These gravitational channels extend for thousands of light years. Someone has rebuilt the fundamental structure of space itself." Communications Officer Tara, her tentacles dancing over her control panel, looked up with concern in her large black eyes. "Captain, I am receiving signals from deeper in the region. Multiple sources. They appear to be warnings. Play them." The bridge filled with voices speaking in dozens of languages, most Xanthara recognized as belonging to species that lived in the unmapped region. But the messages were all similar. "Turn back, unknown vessel. This space is not safe for outsiders. Please leave immediately. You do not understand what you are approaching. Warning. Spatial conditions ahead exceed normal parameters. Your equipment cannot function safely in this region." The messages played for several minutes before Tara shut them off. The bridge fell silent as the crew processed what they had heard. "They are trying to protect us," said Dr. Quintal, the ship's physicist. The elderly Altarian had been studying gravitational anomalies for over 2 centuries. "These warnings come from species that live in the region. They know something we do not." "Our mission is to map this region," Xanthara replied firmly. "We cannot turn back at the first sign of difficulty. Proceed to the nearest inhabited system. Full sensor sweeps." The ship moved forward, its engines humming with increased power as they fought against the strange properties of local space. As they traveled deeper into the region, the sensor readings became increasingly bizarre. "Captain," Zexhai called out, her crystal body flashing with agitation, "I am losing coherent navigation data. Our position indicators are showing impossible readings." "Explain." "According to our instruments, we are simultaneously at coordinates 127.4 by 233.7 by 89.2, and also at coordinates 890.1 by 45.9 by 156.8. Both readings are consistent and stable. It is as if we exist in 2 places at the same time." Vroltak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme confusion in his species. "Confirming multiple simultaneous position readings. Our quantum positioning array is functioning normally, but space itself appears to be folded. We may be experiencing dimensional overlap." "That is impossible," Dr. Quintal said. "Space-time cannot fold in that manner without creating massive gravitational distortions. We should be torn apart by tidal forces. Yet here we are, Zenthara replied. She had seen many strange things in her career, but nothing like this. Continue monitoring. Alert me to any changes. They approached a system that their charts identified as Alpha Centauri, home to several species that maintained trade relations with the galactic community. What they found made everyone on the bridge fall silent in shock. The system contained 3 stars, as expected, but the stars were wrong. Instead of burning balls of plasma following natural orbits, they moved in perfect geometric patterns. Their light pulsed in synchronized sequences, and connecting them were streams of energy that formed complex mathematical shapes in space. The stars, whispered Tara. Someone has turned the stars into machines. Not machines, Dr. Quintal said, his voice filled with awe. Something more. They are still functioning as stars, still fusing hydrogen into helium. But they have been modified to also serve as components in a larger system. This is engineering on a scale I never imagined possible. As they watched, the energy patterns connecting the stars shifted and changed. New pathways formed while others disappeared. It was like watching the thoughts of a vast intelligence made visible in space. I am detecting artificial structures throughout the system, Vroltek reported. Not traditional space stations or habitats. These appear to be built into the fabric of space-time itself. They exist in dimensions we cannot fully perceive. Zenthara stared at the display in amazement. Who could do this? What species has the power to remake entire star systems? Her question was answered by an incoming transmission. Tara's tentacles moved rapidly over her controls as she tried to decode the signal. Captain, I am receiving a message. It is being broadcast simultaneously in Galactic Standard, Forthan, Kraxan, and 17 other languages. The transmission is coming from everywhere at once. I cannot isolate a single source. Put it through. A calm, pleasant voice filled the bridge. Greetings, survey vessel. We are aware of your presence and welcome you to local space. Please do not be alarmed by what your instruments are showing. We understand this region may appear unusual to visitors. We are humans and this is our home. We see you are having trouble with your navigation systems. This is normal and temporary. Your equipment is not designed to function in optimized space-time. We would be happy to provide assistance if you require it. Please be assured that you are in no danger. We do not wish to harm anyone, however, we must ask that you turn back. This space has been modified for human use and may not be safe for beings who have not been prepared for the local conditions. This is not a threat. This is kindness. We hope you understand. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge as the crew tried to process what they had heard. Optimized space-time, Dr. Quintal repeated. What does that mean? Before anyone could answer, every instrument on the ship began screaming warnings at once. The gravitational sensors showed readings that were physically impossible. The quantum positioning array began displaying coordinates that included negative numbers and imaginary directions. Most disturbing of all, their temporal sensors indicated that they were moving backward and forward through time simultaneously. Captain, Zexai said, her crystal body now flashing rapidly between different colors. Something is scanning us. Not our ship. Us. The scan is penetrating our bodies, our minds. It is reading our thoughts, our memories, our genetic patterns. Everything. On the main display, symbols began appearing. At first they looked like random, geometric shapes. But as Zenthara watched, the symbols rearranged themselves into words in her native language. We see you seeing us. We know why you came. We understand your mission. Please turn back. This is not a threat. This is kindness. You are not ready for what lies ahead. Your species are not ready. We will wait until you are. We are patient. We have all the time we need. The message was signed with coordinates that, when calculated, spelled out a single word in 17 different galactic languages simultaneously. Humanity. Zenthara felt a chill run through her entire body. Whatever lived in this region was far beyond anything the galaxy had encountered before. The humans had not just colonized space, they had rewritten it entirely, turning it into something new and incomprehensible. And they were watching. They had been watching all along. Set course. For deeper in the system, she ordered despite the fear that gripped her heart. We came here to map this region. We will not turn back now. But as the ship moved forward into the impossible geometry of human space, Zenthara wondered if they would still be recognizable as themselves when they finally learned the truth about what humanity had become. The stars pulsed brighter as they approached, and she could swear she heard them singing. Against every warning and instinct, Zenthara ordered the stellar cartographer deeper into human space. What they found in the next 3 systems shattered everything she thought she knew about space engineering. The first system they surveyed contained 7 planets orbiting a red giant star. According to their historical records, this star should have died billions of years ago, expanded to consume its inner planets, and collapsed into a white dwarf. Instead, they found it burning steadily, its nuclear fires carefully controlled and maintained. The planets orbited in perfect mathematical harmony, their distances following patterns that created resonance waves in space-time itself. "This is impossible," Dr. Quintal said, staring at his readings. "That star should be dead. Someone has reached inside it and rebuilt its nuclear core. They have turned a dying star into a stable energy source that will burn for trillions of years." But it was the planets that truly amazed them. Each world showed signs of massive engineering projects. Mountains had been carved into geometric shapes that served as massive antenna arrays. Oceans had been rearranged into spiral patterns that generated planetary magnetic fields. Even the planetary orbits had been adjusted to create gravitational harmonics that resonated through the entire system. "They are not just living on these worlds," Vroltak observed, his compound eyes scanning the data streams. "They have turned the entire system into a single machine. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid serves a purpose in a larger design." Lieutenant Zexhai, monitoring their navigation systems, reported even stranger readings. "Captain, our instruments show that this system exists in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. When I scan the 3rd planet, I detect 17 different versions of it, all occupying the same space but slightly offset in dimensions we cannot normally perceive." "Multiple versions?" Zenthara asked. "It appears the humans have created backup, copies of their worlds stored in parallel dimensions. If anything happens to the primary reality, they can simply shift to one of the alternates. They have made their entire civilization immune to any form of destruction." The second system they surveyed was even more incredible. Here, the humans had taken a binary star system and converted it into something that defied classification. The 2 stars orbited each other in a complex pattern that created stable wormholes at specific points in space. These wormholes connected to other systems throughout the region, creating an instantaneous transportation network that spanned thousands of light years. "They have turned their stars into a galactic subway system," Tara whispered, her tentacles trembling with amazement. "They can travel instantly between any system in their territory. No ships needed, no hyperspace. They just step through space itself." But it was the 3rd system that left them speechless. As they approached what their charts labeled as Wolf 359, their instruments began registering readings that should have been physically impossible. The system appeared to exist in a state of controlled quantum superposition, simultaneously in multiple realities at once. "Captain," Dr. Quintal said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I need to show you something, but I warn you, what you are about to see will change how you understand the nature of reality itself." He activated the main display. What appeared on screen looked like a star system designed by cosmic architects who had access to dimensions beyond normal perception. Planets orbited in impossible geometries, following paths that curved through folded space. Moons existed in multiple locations simultaneously, their gravitational fields creating harmonics that sang through the fabric of reality. At the center of it all was Wolf 359 itself, but the star was no longer recognizable as a natural celestial body. It had been converted into something that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, its nuclear fires feeding energy not just into normal space, but into parallel realities as well. Surrounding the star was a structure that could only be described as weaponized space-time. "What am I looking at?" Zenthara asked. "The humans have learned to see reality as we see a computer program," Dr. Quintal explained. To them, the laws of physics are not fixed rules but flexible guidelines that can be rewritten as needed. They have treated this entire region like a construction project, rebuilding it according to their own specifications. As they watched, the space around Wolf 359 rippled and shifted. New structures appeared while others folded away into dimensions they could not perceive. It was like watching someone editing a three-dimensional document, making changes to the basic code of reality itself. Incoming transmission, Tara announced. Source appears to be the star system itself. The signal is coming from everywhere. Put it through. A new voice filled the bridge, warm and friendly, speaking perfect galactic standard. Hello there. Welcome to Wolf 359. I'm sorry about all the dimensional instability. We're doing some renovation work on the local space-time matrix and things. Are a bit chaotic right now. You're the survey team from the Galactic Cartographic Institute, right? We've been expecting you. Santhara found her voice. You have been expecting us? Oh yes, we detected your survey mission when you first entered our territory. We've been watching your progress with great interest. It's been a while since we had visitors from the wider galaxy. Most species find our home improvements a bit overwhelming. Home improvements? Santhara repeated weakly. Well, yes. When we first started expanding beyond Earth, we noticed that space had some design flaws. Inefficient energy distribution, poor resource allocation, suboptimal gravitational architecture. We've been fixing things as we go. Just basic housekeeping, really. The casual way the human described rewriting the laws of physics sent chills through Xanthara's body. You speak of altering space-time as if it were routine maintenance? Isn't it? I mean, once you learn to perceive the underlying structure of reality, making adjustments is pretty straightforward. It's like learning to use any tool. At first it seems complicated, but with practice it becomes second nature. On the display, they could see the impossible architecture of Wolf 359 continuing to shift and change. New planets materialized while others faded from existence. The star itself pulsed with energies that fed into realities beyond their perception. We'd love to give you a proper tour, the human voice continued. But I should warn you that your ship's instruments aren't designed to function in optimized space-time. You might experience some disorientation. Would you like us to adjust the local physics to something more comfortable for you? Adjust the local physics? Dr. Quintal whispered. Sure, it's no trouble. We can dial down the dimensional complexity in your immediate area. Make space behave more like what you're used to. Though I should mention that it will limit what you can see. A lot of our infrastructure exists in dimensions that most species cannot perceive. Santhara realized with growing horror that the humans were not just offering to change reality around them. They were implying that they could do so as easily as adjusting the temperature in a room. How long have you been able to do this? She asked. Oh, about 300 years now. It started when our scientists figured out how to see what we call the substrate layer of reality. Once you can perceive the underlying code that runs the universe, making modifications is just a matter of learning the syntax. The substrate layer? Think of reality as a massive computer simulation. Most species only see the user interface, what you call the laws of physics, but we learn to access the programming layer underneath. From there, we can edit the basic parameters of existence. Mass, energy, time, space, causality. They're all just variables in a cosmic database. The ship shuddered as something vast and incomprehensible brushed against their hull. Through the viewports, Xanthara could see space itself rippling like water, reality flowing around structures that existed in too many dimensions to properly perceive. We should mention, the human voice continued pleasantly, that we've been doing some maintenance work throughout this entire galactic arm, improving stellar efficiency, optimizing planetary arrangements, upgrading the local space-time architecture. Nothing too dramatic, just making everything run a bit smoother. This entire galactic arm? Vroltak clicked his mandibles in shock. How much of space have you modified? Well, let's see. We've completed optimization work on about 40,000 star systems so far. Maybe 50,000 if you count them systems where we've only done basic improvements. We're expanding the improved zone by roughly a dozen systems per day. The casual tone in which the human delivered this information was perhaps the most terrifying thing Zenthara had ever heard. They were not boasting or threatening. They were simply stating facts the way someone might discuss a gardening project. "Why?" she asked. "Why do all of this?" "Because we can," the human replied simply. "And because the universe is such a beautiful place. It seemed wrong to leave it running on obsolete hardware when we could upgrade it to something better." "Don't you think everyone deserves to live in the best possible version of reality?" As the stellar cartographer drifted through the impossible geometry of Wolf 359, Zenthara began to understand why the galaxy refused to map human space. It was not because humans were hostile or dangerous in any traditional sense. 3 days later, the stellar cartographer approached Earth orbit, escorted by what the humans called a navigation assistance field, a bubble of controlled space-time that allowed their ship to function normally despite the impossible physics of the Sol system. Zenthara had seen Earth in historical records, a blue-green world with natural continents, normal weather patterns, and conventional physics. The planet that now filled their view screen bore little resemblance to those old images. Earth still looked blue and green from space, but closer inspection revealed that every aspect of the planet had been carefully redesigned. The continents followed mathematical patterns that created global energy flows. The oceans moved in spiral currents that generated planetary-scale magnetic fields. Even the weather systems had been optimized, following precise patterns that maintained perfect climate balance across the entire world. "Look at the moon," Dr. Quintal whispered, pointing at the satellite that orbited Earth. "It has been converted into a massive computational array. The entire lunar surface is covered with structures that process information on a quantum level. But it was Mars that truly demonstrated the scope of human ambition. The red planet had been transformed into what their guide called a reality anchor, a massive device that stabilized the dimensional fluctuations throughout the Sol system. The entire planet now served as a single machine, maintaining the exotic physics that allowed human civilization to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. "Incoming transmission from Earth," Tara announced. "They are inviting us to visit a facility they call the Observatory." "What kind of observatory?" Zenthara asked. "According to their message, it is a place where humans study the fundamental nature of existence. They say it will help us understand what they have become." An hour later, their shuttle landed at coordinates that seemed to exist in 7 dimensions simultaneously. The observatory was unlike any structure Zenthara had ever seen. It was not built in normal space but woven into the fabric of reality itself, existing partially in their dimension and partially in realms beyond normal perception. Their guide met them at what she generously called a landing pad, though it seemed to be made of crystallized space-time rather than any conventional material. Dr. Sarah Chen appeared to be a perfectly normal human woman, medium height, brown hair, wearing casual clothing that would not have looked out of place in any galactic shopping district. Only her eyes gave away her true nature. They held depths that seemed to see through multiple layers of reality at once. "Welcome to Earth," Dr. Chen said with a warm smile. "I hope the journey wasn't too uncomfortable. We know our local modifications can be a bit overwhelming for visitors." "Dr. Chen," Zenthara began carefully, "we have seen things in your territory that should be impossible according to known physics. How did your species develop such capabilities?" "Oh, that's a long story," Dr. Chen replied, gesturing for them to follow her into the observatory. "Would you like the short version or the complete explanation?" "The complete explanation, if you please." As they walked through corridors that curved through dimensions beyond normal perception, Dr. Chen began her tale. It started about 300 years ago. Our scientists were studying quantum mechanics, trying to understand the fundamental nature of reality. They discovered something that changed everything. The universe is not what it appears to be. They entered a vast chamber that seemed to contain the entire cosmos within its walls. Stars and galaxies swirled in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Zenthara realized they were seeing reality from a perspective that no natural being was meant to experience. "We learned that what most species think of as the laws of physics are actually just the user interface of a much more complex system. Dr. Chen continued. Imagine if you had only ever used a computer through its desktop icons, never realizing there was an entire operating system underneath. That is how most civilizations interact with reality. But you learned to access this underlying system? Dr. Quintal asked. Exactly. We discovered what we call the substrate layer, the actual programming that runs the universe. Once we could perceive it, we realized that reality is far more flexible than anyone imagined. Mass, energy, time, space, causality, they are all just parameters that can be adjusted. Dr. Chen waved her hand and a section of the chamber's wall became transparent. Beyond it, they could see Earth as it truly was. Not a single planet but thousands of versions of the same world, all existing in parallel dimensions, all connected by streams of controlled quantum energy. The first thing we did was back up our civilization, she explained. We created parallel versions of Earth, stored in pocket dimensions that we could access if anything went wrong with the original. Death became optional. Scarcity became meaningless. We could create any resource we needed simply by adjusting the local parameters of existence. But why continue expanding? Zenthara asked. If you had achieved paradise on your own worlds, why spread throughout the galaxy? Dr. Chen looked genuinely puzzled by the question. Because we realized we could help. The universe is running on such inefficient systems, stars burning out when they could be maintained forever, planets stuck in suboptimal orbits when they could be moved to better positions, civilizations struggling with scarcity when abundance is just a matter of proper resource management. She gestured to another wall, which showed a real-time map of their territory. Zenthara gasped as she saw the true scope of human expansion. They had not just modified the few systems she had visited. Their improvements extended across half, the galactic arm encompassing hundreds of thousands of star systems. We are not conquering anything, Dr. Chen said, misreading Zenthara's expression. We simply upgrade each system we encounter, making it more efficient, more stable, more beautiful. The local species are always welcome to stay. Most of them do once they see the benefits of optimized existence. What happens to species that refuse your improvements? Vroltak asked. We respect their choice, of course. Free will is one of the fundamental constants we never modify. But it is rare for anyone to choose inefficiency once they understand the alternatives. Would you rather live in a universe of scarcity and death, or in a reality where every need is met and every dream can be achieved? Dr. Chen led them to the center of the chamber, where a complex device hummed with energies that existed in dimensions beyond their perception. This is our latest project, she said proudly. We call it the Galactic Optimization Engine. It allows us to make improvements to entire star clusters simultaneously. Instead of upgrading one system at a time, we can now enhance the fundamental structure of space-time across vast regions. The device showed readings that meant nothing to Zenthara, but Dr. Quintal's face had turned pale with understanding. You are planning to modify the entire galaxy, he whispered. Eventually, yes. Why wouldn't we? Every civilization deserves to live in the best possible version of reality. No more war, no more disease, no more death, no more scarcity. Everyone can have everything they want forever. But what about choice? Zenthara asked. What if species prefer their current existence? Dr. Chen looked genuinely confused. But why would anyone choose suffering when happiness is available? Why would anyone choose death when immortality is possible? Why would anyone choose limitation when infinite possibility exists? She activated a holographic display that showed their plans for galactic improvement. Zenthara watched in horror as the simulation showed human modifications spreading across the entire galaxy, converting every system to their optimized parameters. We estimate that full galactic optimization will take approximately 50,000 years, Dr. Chen continued. We are not in any hurry. We have learned to be patient. Time is just another parameter we can adjust as needed. And the other species? What happens to them during this optimization process? They will be upgraded, along with everything else. Their biology will be enhanced to function perfectly in optimized space-time. Their lifespans will be extended indefinitely. Their capacity for happiness will be increased. Their ability to understand and manipulate reality will be improved to match our own. They will become the best possible versions of themselves. But will they still be themselves? Synthara asked quietly. Dr. Chen paused, as if the question had never occurred to her. Of course. We would never change anyone's fundamental nature without their permission. We are not monsters. We simply want to help everyone achieve their full potential. But as Synthara looked at Dr. Chen's kind, caring face, she realized the terrifying truth. The humans genuinely believed they were helping. They could not understand why anyone would choose imperfection when perfection was available. They could not comprehend why any species would prefer the risks of natural existence when they could offer absolute safety and unlimited possibility. They were not conquerors. They were gardeners, tending to what they saw as a wild and inefficient universe, carefully cultivating it into something better. And like all gardeners, they could not understand why the weeds insisted on growing back. We should return to our ship, Synthara said. We have learned what we came to discover. Dr. Chen smiled warmly. Of course, but please, take some time to. 6 months after returning from human space, Synthara stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 2,000 species filled the vast chamber on Zephyria Prime, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, chirps, harmonics, and electromagnetic pulses that the universal translators worked frantically to convert into meaningful dialogue. The chamber fell silent as she activated her presentation. The holographic display showed the survey data from her mission, images of impossible stellar engineering, readings that defied known physics, and documentation of technologies that treated the fundamental forces of nature as casually as most. Species used simple tools. Honored representatives, Synthara began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. I have completed the survey of the region designated as Sector 01A, commonly known as human space. What I found there changes everything we understand about our place in the galaxy. She activated the first set of images, the modified star systems, the impossible orbital mechanics, the planets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The humans have not simply colonized space, she continued. They have fundamentally rebuilt it. Every system they inhabit has been converted into a component of a vast, interconnected machine that spans thousands of light years. They have turned stars into computers, planets into tools, and space-time itself into raw material for their construction projects. A representative from the Andromedan Trade Federation raised one of his sensor stalks. Surely this is an exaggeration. No species could possess such capabilities. I thought so too, Synthara replied. But the evidence is undeniable. The humans have learned to perceive and manipulate what they call the substrate layer of reality, the fundamental programming that underlies our universe. To them, the laws of physics are not fixed rules, but flexible guidelines that can be rewritten as needed. She showed them the recordings of her conversations with Dr. Chen, the images of the observatory, the casual way humans discussed modifying the basic parameters of existence. They speak of rebuilding reality the way we might discuss renovating a building. They have eliminated death, scarcity, and suffering from their civilization. They can create any resource they need, exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and adjust the flow of time itself to meet their requirements. The chamber erupted in concerned discussion. Species that had been at war with each other for millennia found themselves united in shared discomfort at what they were hearing. Chancellor Vextal of the Centauran Republic stood, his crystalline form catching the light in complex patterns. If they possess such power, why have they not used it against us? Why have they remained in their isolated region? Because they do not see us as enemies, Synthara answered. They see us as projects, incomplete beings who need their help to achieve optimization. They genuinely believe they are doing us a kindness by staying away until we are ready for their assistance. She activated the next part of her presentation, showing the humans' expansion plans. The display revealed their modifications spreading steadily outward, converting system after system to their optimized parameters. They are expanding at a rate of approximately 12 star systems per day, not through conquest or colonization, in any traditional sense, but through what they call improvement. They upgrade each system they encounter, making it more efficient, more stable, more perfect according to their standards. And the species that live in those systems? Asked Ambassador Tavel from the Rigel Consortium. They are offered the chance to be upgraded as well. Extended lifespans, enhanced capabilities, freedom from disease and death. According to the humans, most species accept these improvements willingly once they understand the benefits. And those who refuse? Synthara paused, remembering Dr. Chen's confused expression when asked that same question. The humans respect free will. They do not force anyone to accept optimization, but they also cannot understand why anyone would choose limitation over perfection, suffering over happiness, death over immortality. She activated the final part of her presentation, the Galactic Optimization Engine and humanity's long-term plans. They intend to upgrade the entire galaxy, every star system, every planet, every form of life. They have the patience to wait 50,000 years if necessary. Time is just another parameter they can adjust. They will continue expanding, continue improving, continue helping whether we want their help or not. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, High Counselor Zarhan of the Vegan Trade Federation spoke, his ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries. What you describe is not conquest in any form we recognize. It is something far more insidious. They offer us paradise, but paradise defined entirely by their standards, their aesthetics, their understanding of what constitutes a perfect existence. Exactly, Synthara agreed. They are not evil. They are not malicious. They genuinely want to help us become the best possible versions of ourselves. That is what makes them so dangerous. She moved to the center of the chamber, addressing the assembled representatives directly. The humans have transcended the normal limitations of existence. They have become gardeners tending to what they see as a wild and inefficient universe. And like all gardeners, they cannot understand why the weeds insist on growing back. Director Kalzon activated his speaking platform. What are you recommending, cartographer Zenthara? She had spent months wrestling with this question. The humans posed no direct threat. They were peaceful, generous, and offered genuine benefits to any species that accepted their help. But accepting that help would mean the end of everything. The galaxy understood as natural existence. I recommend we maintain the current quarantine of human space, she said finally. Not because they are hostile, but because they are kind. Their offer of optimization is genuine. Their desire to help is real. But accepting their assistance would mean becoming something other than what we are. But surely some of their technologies could benefit us, suggested a representative from the Altair system. Medical advances, energy systems, space transportation methods. Any technology advanced enough to seem like magic will change the society. That adopts it, Synthara replied. The humans did not set out to become transcendent beings who casually edit the laws of physics. They began with simple improvements and gradually discovered they could do more and more. Each advancement led naturally to the next, until they became something that can no longer be called purely human. She activated one final image, the quantum communicator Dr. Chen had given her. It sat in a secure containment field in her laboratory, humming with energies that existed in dimensions beyond normal perception. They gave me this device, a gift. If we ever decide we want their help, we can simply activate it and they will begin the optimization process for our species. The offer will remain open forever. Have you tested it? Asked a representative. She did not recognize. No. And I never will. Because I understand what it represents. It is not just a communication device. It is a doorway to a form of existence that we may find paradise, but it would be paradise on human terms. We would become the best possible versions of ourselves as defined by human understanding of what constitutes improvement. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Some species argued for accepting human assistance, pointing out the benefits of eliminating disease, death, and scarcity. Others insisted that such fundamental changes would destroy everything that made their civilizations unique. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to maintain the quarantine of human space, not out of fear of human aggression, but out of terror of human kindness. The final resolution, recorded in the permanent archives of the Galactic Council, read, "It is the unanimous decision of this council that the region designated as Sector 01A shall remain classified as unsurveyable. All mapping operations in this region are hereby permanently discontinued. Member species are advised to maintain peaceful relations with human representatives, but to decline any offers of technological assistance or optimization services. This decision is not based on hostility toward humanity, but on the recognition that their form of help, while genuinely beneficial, would fundamentally alter the nature of galactic civilization in ways that cannot be undone. The humans are not our enemies. They are gardeners who see the galaxy as a garden in need of improvement. We choose to remain wild." As the session ended and the representatives began to disperse, Zenthara remained in the empty chamber, staring at the holographic display that still showed the steady expansion of human-optimized space. She knew their decision would not stop the humans. They would continue expanding, continue improving, continue offering their gifts to anyone who would accept them. Eventually, perhaps in 1,000 years or 10,000, the expanding sphere of optimized space would reach the core worlds of galactic civilization. When that day came, the galaxy would face the same choice she had witnessed in human space: accept paradise on someone else's terms, or insist on the right to remain imperfect. She suspected she knew which choice most species would make when faced with the actual offer of immortality, unlimited resources, and freedom from all suffering.